Why there is a shade on the Day of Judgment? Why do I need a shade? And let's think in dunya. When do we need shade? When do we need shade? We need shade when there is sun. So whenever there is sun, we need shade. So will there be a shade on the Day of Judgment? And the answer is yes. In the Hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, the meaning of on the Day of Judgment, the sun will be so close to the human being, بمقدار ميل. The narrator said, he said meal, M-E-E-L. And he said, I didn't know if Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam meant it's a distance like 1 mile, or he meant the size or the distance of the small stick that they use to put eyeliners. This is usually, it used to be very common, where it's like a small, beautiful container, and then you put in it a very thin stick, and then you put it in, and it's usually this size. It's probably 4 or 5 centimeters. And then you put it in, probably even less. You put it in and out, and then the person uses it to put eyeliner. So he said, I don't know if the sun will be that close, like this much, or it is the mile. So it's going to be very close. It's going to be very hot. And in another hadith, Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam explained that the sun is so close that the human beings will start sweating. And I'm not talking about sweating on the forehead, maybe sweating in the axilla, maybe sweating in our clothes. And he described, subhanAllah, it is so scary. He said, the sweating, the amount of the sweating, the human being, he or she, by the way, this is us, all of us, depends on how much sins they have. The amount of the heat they will feel, and in response, the body will start producing sweats. It depends how much sins they have. And he gave the parable that they will be covered with the sweat, some to their knees, some to their heels, some to their knees, some to their half of their body, some to their neck. Subhanallah. So we need to imagine the amount of heat. I need to understand this so I know why specifically he said there is a shade on the Day of Judgment. So imagine those of us who lives in a hot place, or there's a very hot summer, or it's always hot. If the temperature get to 40, get to 50 degrees centigrade, and like get to 120 Fahrenheit or above 100, a lot of things change in life. Sometimes schools are closed. People are said, don't go out, beware, make sure you cover, make sure you don't stand in the sun for a long time, make sure you drink enough of water. And there's no fear. There is no Day of Judgment. There is no, I am going to go and talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He's going to open my book and ask me. And subhanallah. And we cannot take it in reality. That day, the temperature is not 100 Fahrenheit or 50 degrees centigrade. Allah only knows what the temperature will be when the sun either 1 mile or it is in that stick length. Subhanallah. And the amount of the sweat. In that day, on that scene, we need to feel that scene so we can understand the hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. This is how we live our religion. It's not just information, but we have to look at everything, the scenario. So that's going to be a day of fear, of heat, of exhaustion, of no way out. Everybody running from everybody. يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه. The human being will run away from his father, from his brother, and in another one, وصاحبته التي تؤويه, and from even the spouses. لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغنيه. Everyone on that day worried about their own affairs, enough that they cannot think of anybody else. The breastfeeding woman, mother, through the child. يوم تذهل كل مرضعة عما أرضعت. Allah said this in Surah Al-Hajj. The breastfeeding woman, imagine this. This is a scene, no way we can even think of it in this life. The woman that's breastfeeding her baby will throw the baby out. وَتَضَعُ كُلُّ ذَاتِ حَمْلٍ حَمْلَهَا. And the pregnant woman, regardless from the fear and from the shock of that day, will deliver. So that day, with that heat, with that sweat, with all that fear, there is a shade. Subhanallah, and you need to feel this. And the shade is ظِلَّهُ يَوْمَ لَا ظِلَّ إِلَّا ظِلُّهُ. The day there is no shade but his shade. And his is capital H, Subhanah. What is this shade? It's not an umbrella. It's not a big tree. It's not a palm tree. It's not a gazebo. It's not whatever we can think of in this life that we use to protect us. This is Dhillur Rahman. As in another hadith, Allah subhanahu wa Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said, it's the shade of the All-Merciful. Don't you want to be in that shade? Don't I want to be in that shade? Who doesn't want to be in a shade when it's extremely hot? Add to it fear, add to it reckoning, add to it, I don't know where we will end. Of course I want to be under the shade of Allah. And he said, only these seven categories. And there is no shade but his shade. So my only choice and your choice to be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that day is to be one of these 7 categories. I have to be one of these 7 to guarantee, because that's a hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. This is in Al-Bukhari and Muslim. وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. He does not speak out of his own desire, alayhi salatu wasalam. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. The meanings has been revealed, inspired to Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. So I need to say to myself, I need to be at least one of these 7. At least. And let's see, can we? And what are they? We're going to cover some this week, and inshallah next week we will cover the rest.